Good evening. I hereby call to order the action session of the Board of School Commissioners for Thursday, May 25th. Mr. Mulholland, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Arnold?
Here.
Commissioner Bentley?
Here.
Secretary Gore?
Here.
Commissioner Hoops?
Here.
Commissioner Moore?
Here.
Vice President O'Connor?
Here.
President Sullivan?
Here. Thank you, Mr. Mulholland. We will now adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting. The agenda was reviewed on Tuesday and reflects any necessary modifications or additions. Reviewing the modified agenda, are there any requests for changes to the agenda as presented? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The agenda is adopted. We will now proceed to Section 2. This evening's student performance will be provided by Andrea Landeros. Andrea is a sophomore member of the Ensemble Elite from Crispus Attucks Medical Magnet High School. Please welcome Andrea Landeros performing the National Anthem under the direction of Pamela Blackburn.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Andrea. Each year, the Indianapolis Public Schools and the IPS Board of School Commissioners celebrate the top scholars in the district, our valedictorians and salutatorians. Tonight, we're pleased to acknowledge the hard work and academic prowess of the 2016-17 valedictorians and salutatorians, and many of whom have overcome adversity to graduate at the top of their class. These standout students have diverse plans for the future, and it is our honor to celebrate their achievements. At this time, would our Vals and Sals present this evening please rise and come forward to be recognized?
We begin with Arlington Community High School. Valedictorian Justin Smith leads his senior class with a 3.96 GPA. Active in sports, Justin is a member of the cheer squad and also runs track and play football for the Golden Knights. Outside of school, he participates in the annual breast cancer awareness walk and in neighborhood cleanups to help beautify the city. Justin plans to study business and psychology this fall at IUPUI. Justin was unable to attend this evening, so Arlington's principal, Mr. Law, will deliver the award at school. A salutatorian, Cortez Hutchins, is finishing his senior year with a 3.95 GPA. Cortez is the 5th child in a family of 6 and takes pride in being a role model to his siblings and peers. Cortez is a member of the National Honor Society and served as treasurer of the Student Government Association. He is also a member of Arlington basketball team. When he's not studying, Cortez enjoys spending time with family. He plans to major in social work this fall at Indiana University, Bloomington. Cortez.
Next, we'd like to honor Arsenal Technical High School's top 2 seniors. Valedictorian Annie King leads her class with a 4.4 grade point average. In addition to her academic studies, Annie is active with the school's marching band, theater department, and Model United Nations Club. This fall, Annie will study environmental science at Indiana University, Bloomington. Annie King. Salutatorian Daniela Lopez has earned a 4.2 grade point average. Active in her church, Danielle volunteers as a translator during church services, is a member of the youth committee, and volunteers in the nursery. The first in her family to attend college, Daniela plans to major in mathematics education at Marian University. Daniela Lopez.
Up next, we celebrate the Vals and Sals at Broad Ripple Magnet High School for the Arts and Humanities. Valedictorian Andre Cavio has a 4.107 GPA. Andre, who has studied the violin since 5th grade, serves as the school's orchestra concertmaster. He also enjoys listening to music, watching movies, and playing video games. Andre will combine all of these interests into his major at IUPUI, where he will study informatics at the School of Informatics. Andre. With a 4.105 GPA, salutatorian Margaret Van Shake is a standout student. She plays volleyball and baseball and is active in the Theater Magnet program at Broad Ripple. Margaret serves her community and school through a number of mentoring and volunteer opportunities. She has also participated in Tufts University's Education for Public Inquiry and International Citizenship Symposium. Margaret plans to pursue degrees in international studies and political science at Indiana University, Bloomington. Margaret.
Crispus Attucks Medical Magnet High School. The next 2 top scholars represent Crispus Attucks Medical Magnet High School. Valedictorian Kayla Hawthorne is finishing out the year strong with a 4.1 GPA. The student athlete is a member of the volleyball, tennis, and wrestling teams. She is also a member of the marching band and the National Honor Society. An active member of her church, Kayla serves as vice president of the youth group. This fall, Kayla plans to major in anthropology and agricultural communications at Purdue University. Salutatorian Marlene Martinez Calderon has a 4.0 GPA. Marlene enjoys participating in the band in the school's art club. She is also a member of the National Honor Society. A longtime volunteer with Down Syndrome Indiana, Marlene plans to study nursing at Ivy Tech Community College. Congratulations to these Crispus Attucks Tigers.
Now we turn our attention to George Washington Community High School. Valedictorian Taylor Schupman. Taylor is ending her senior year with a 4.0 GPA. Taylor is a member of the National Honor Society, volunteers at Mary Rigg Neighborhood Center, and maintains a job at McDonald's. The first in her family to attend college, Taylor will study nursing this fall at IUPUI. Salutatorian Alexis Matthews. Alexis has a 3.9 GPA. She is active in 4 sports. Alexis plays on the softball, volleyball, basketball, and soccer teams, and volunteers with the annual Indianapolis Monumental Marathon. Alexis will continue her studies at the University of Indianapolis, where she will major in athletic training or pre-dentistry.
The board is honored to recognize the valedictorians and salutatorians of John Marshall Community High School. Valedictorian Cosmel Youth Sida earned a 3.6 GPA. Cosmel is a member of John Marshall's soccer and football team. The first in his family to attend college, Cosmel is headed west to sunny Sacramento, California, where he will be an automotive student at Universal Technical Institute. Cosmel was unable to attend this evening, but will be recognized next week at our celebration dinner. Next, we have Anna Davis, who have earned the title of Salutatorian with a GPA of 3.5. As a member of both her school and church choir, Anna enjoys singing, drawing, and creative writing. In the summer, she also worked as a volunteer with her church youth program. Anna planned to major in art at Indiana State University. Congratulations to these John Marshall patriots.
It is a pleasure to speak to the merits of the valedictorian and salutatorian of Northwest Community High School. Valedictorian Blessing Ajoke Ulagudu-Ye will finish her senior year with a GPA of 3.97. Originally from Ondo State, Nigeria, Blessing came to the United States at age 14 with her family. She is a member of the school's volleyball and tennis teams and is a member of the National Honor Society. Passionate about the welfare of children, Blessing also makes time to volunteer at Riley Hospital for Children. She will study pediatric medicine at IUPUI in the fall. Please join me in congratulating Blessing. Salutatorian Ron Sims will finish with a GPA of 3.9. Ron currently works for Morningside of College Park, a retirement and assisted living center, and is a member of the National Honor Society. When he's not studying or working, he enjoys time with family and friends. Ron will study dental hygiene at IUPUI in the fall. Congratulations to Ron and to Northwest Space Pioneers.
We now turn our attention to our final recognition of the evening, our top scholars from Shortridge International Baccalaureate High School. Valedictorian Zachary Andre Zernheld has a 4.4 GPA. Zachary is a member of the school's tennis team, as well as its robotics and board game clubs. Interested in all types of gaming activities, he prides himself on being a game designer. Zachary is also a proud Life Scout with Boy Scouts of America. In the fall, he will study mathematics and computer science at Purdue University. Zachary. Salutatorian Ope Obajolu has a GPA of 4.3. A native of Lagos, Nigeria, Ope came to the United States with her family as an infant. At Shortridge, she enjoys playing volleyball and tennis and is active with art and Spanish clubs. She is also a member of Purdue Bound. Ope recently received recognition from the Spanish Honor Society for her interest in Latin culture and language. She will study civil engineering at Purdue University in the fall. Ope was unable to attend this evening, but will be celebrated at her school at our Vals and Sal's dinner. Congratulations to these Shortridge Blue Devils. And let's have one final round of applause for all of our 2017 IPS Vals and Sals. Also, if anyone here would like to quickly get a picture of the group, you might come up, and this would be a great time to do that very quickly. Thank you. As our students exit, I would like to briefly thank our sponsors and media partners for supporting our 2017 Vals and Sals. Special thanks goes to Faegre Baker Daniels, Ivy Tech Community College, and our media partners, Indy's Child, La Prensa, and the Indianapolis Recorder. We'll now move to Section 3, opening comments. Does any commissioner wish to offer comments at this time? So we'll now receive public comments from those individuals or groups who have signed up to offer comments to the board this evening. I will remind our speakers that you are allowed 3 minutes to offer comments to the board. A timer will start when you begin, and I ask that you briefly conclude your remarks when you hear the timer go off. Comments should be directed to the board collectively, should be respectful, and should not address a topic that might be of a confidential nature or that would compromise the impartiality of the board. I will also remind our speakers that while the board is happy to receive your comments, we will not respond or answer any questions. Please come to the podium and begin your comments when your name is called.
Chris Boylan, followed by Matthew Woolley.
Good evening. Tuesday, I came in front of you as the George Washington High School Dollars for Scholars president, I shared with you how a group of teachers and community partners came together to raise $322,392 to help 274 scholars pursue and reach their post-secondary goals. This year alone, we have also awarded another $20,000 to help a new group of Continentals reach their dreams. Tonight, I stand here in front of you as a teacher, Eagledale kid, IPS alumni, and current Westside resident. I had planned to stand here tonight and talk about the success stories I've been a part of and watched for the past 15 years at Washington. However, after listening to the board meeting Tuesday night, I cannot sit quietly about the things that I heard mentioned. First, from a purely optics standpoint, the fact that this district is talking about closing 3 schools while adding 3 new innovation schools is extremely concerning. I am proud to teach a group of students with special needs in a non-diploma life skills program. The fact that 3 schools who service my students are being closed, while 3 schools where my students cannot even attend will be brought into IPS is ethically and morally questionable. While I understand the district needs to downsize due to student enrollment, I find the discussions of savings confusing when we are talking about bringing in new schools. I will also point out that the 3 proposed additions, once again, do not include the near west side or southwest areas of the district, focusing again on the areas east of the White River. I would also be interested in to see any study that has been done as pertaining to the change of cost in transportation for the neighborhoods where schools will potentially be closed. Second, as Jim Grimm mentioned Tuesday, the area around Washington is seeing an incredible amount of investment and growth. This creates an incredible opportunity for our community-based program to grow. Its location to a direct Indigo bus line downtown with the new development makes it an ideal location for our life skills program. Which brings me back to Tuesday's meetings. To sit here and listen to plans to add schools that do not service all students not only is sad, but makes me question the direction of this district as a whole. When I've asked what discussions have been made in regards to our life skills programs, no one can seem to give any kind of answer. While this is not a group on most people's radar, it is in fact one of the fastest growing programs in IPS. I ask the board to consider the impact of your decisions on this too often forgotten group of students. Not getting a diploma should not marginalize the value of the students or the importance of their education. As Alexander Hamilton said, the only thing worse than ignorance is blind faith. I ask the board to ask the hard questions, look beyond the reports and information you are given, and ensure that any school additions or closings are truly in the best interest of all students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matthew Woolley, followed by Phil Votaw.
Good evening. It's my honor to be before you once again. My name is Matthew Hooley. I'm a proud parent of a George Washington Continental and 2 children in school 49. I'm going to, because I'm from Boston, I'm going to start my little speech a little bit different. I'm going to give a moment of silence. Well, I'm going to say what I think we all were thinking. That was a little awkward. But to me, that is the sound that you're going to hear on the near west side for education if George Washington Community High School is closed. Last time I was before you was George Washington Community High School and middle school. So we were going to get a middle school, and that went out the window. And so I just want to quickly get to my points. Being from Boston, I have 1,001 things to say, but I'll get directly to it. Our Latino families. We have over 500 Latino families in the George Washington zone. That's 4 feeder schools and a high school. My question to the board, and I know it can't be answered tonight, is what happens with them? What happens with a group of people, which I'm proud Hispanic myself, what happens to a group of people who are afraid to put their children on a bus to travel 25 minutes to a different school in a different part of the IPS zone with all the federal and state issues with immigration? I hope the board has considered this. I hope the board has considered that currently we have 250 plus Latino students in George Washington. which may not seem like a big number. But as I like to call it, the farm team that's coming up, the feeder schools have over, or on average, 100 to 200 Latino families coming up to George Washington if it remains open. I would ask this board to really consider their plans with George Washington. Because as I said, this is a group of students, families, who are very silent because they're afraid of the ramifications on a federal level. If they get on a bus and all of a sudden they get in an accident and the name becomes part of a report, what happens? In this time and age where a lot of federal laws are trying to be made on that subject, it's a frightening time for my community. And with that said, I would beg the question, has the board considered, if you take a school that is mostly Latino, in a sense, that most of our Latino students in the district for high school go there, what is the federal lawsuit ramifications of that? Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you.
After Phil Votaw, we have Andrew Gatza.
Hello, my name is Phil Votaw. I work with Westside Community Development Corporation. I wanted to let you know that George Washington Community High School is an important partner with the Near West neighborhoods in implementing their quality of life plan, and it was one of the original partners with WCDC to apply to Local Initiative Support Corporation to get the neighborhood just north of the school designated as a great place. The school also is an important partner because they are a strategic partner in our neighborhood, and they have developed partnerships with area industry, with IUPUI, and dozens of other areas, small businesses, churches, and individual contributors. And that has created an authentic college-going culture where one had not previously existed. 69% of graduating seniors go on to enroll in college or other post-secondary education from Washington. Washington is also nationally recognized for its student engagement in service learning, college readiness, and college scholarship activities, including having the Dollars for Scholars program, which, as you heard earlier, allows any student who graduates to go on to the college of their choice, with tuition being paid by the scholarship program. River West, the Near West Great Place that George Washington is associated with, has cultivated new partners for investment in the community around the school. And in part, that new interest and investment is based on having George Washington as a local education anchor, helping to prepare youth for the workforce and adult life in Near West. The Near West is seeing new investment out of this synergy and of these partnerships and strategic work. In the last year, WCDC and its partners have under construction or completed more than a dozen new units of affordable home ownership in and around the River West Great Place. Goodwill Industry has announced Riverview Apartments, which is 200 new units of student-oriented housing, which is for a workforce population making $40,000 to $60,000 a year. Annex Student Housing has new student-oriented housing under construction. Kinney Group, one of our local businesses, has a major expansion planned, and the Villages at Central State broke ground on May 4th for new construction market-rate homes on the former hospital campus. These projects alone represent more than $54 million being invested within 1 mile of George Washington Community High School. In the next decade, Near West population is poised to grow, and this means an increased need for schools, especially ones like Washington that is high quality and heavily engaged in its community. WCDC and its community partners look forward to working with Washington and IPS to find ways to increase space utilization at the school and to further serve Near West in the coming years while that population growth is taking place. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
After Andrew Gatza, we have Dan Kello.
Hi, my name is Andrew Gatza. I've been involved with IPS for 7 years as a former teacher and current volunteer. I live in the IPS boundary, and I'm also an urban education studies and math education PhD student. Tonight I want to address the lack of thought given to issues of racial equity, lack of genuine effort to involve the public in the Indianapolis public schools discussion on school closings. Decisions that will have generational impacts on the community. Action needs to be taken. However, the discussion has been framed that has been framed is negligent at best and more realistically catastrophic to our children and the broader Indianapolis community. First, racial equity has been recognized as a major concern and even led to the establishment of a district racial equity group tasked with, quote, eliminating racial disproportionality and disparity, end quote. 2 members of the racial equity group are also on the facilities task force. This school board approved the spending of nearly $500,000 in a partnership with the Racial Equity Institute from North Carolina. Despite all of this, the facilities task force report does not even mention the word race. The report does not align with the board's strategic plan in regard to equity, nor align with reported efforts to, quote, safeguard taxpayer dollars, end quote. So I ask, whose interests does this serve? Second, the only suggestion proposed by the task force has been to close 3 IPS high schools without considering any other options. How can a district recommend closing 3 IPS high schools and at the same time discuss opening 3 innovation charter high schools within the district? Purdue Polytechnic, which you've already approved, and Heron at Riverside, which you will vote on tonight. This is further suspect given that one of the task force members, Bill Taft, is the spouse of Joanna Taft, who is a founding member and current board president of Heron. This is an enormous conflict of interest that has not been disclosed in the task force report. Furthermore, despite Heron's efforts to recruit students of color, Department of Education data over the past 7 years indicates a complete lack of success. From 2009 to present, for example, the number of African American students has remained relatively stable, while the number of white students has increased by more than 300 students. Heron now serves a student population that is 65% white. The classical academic model is clearly not widely appealing to students of color. Given that IPS is comprised of 80% students of color, whose interest does your vote yes on partnering with these schools serve? Third, extremely limited community input was sought. For example, even though about 4,500 students within IPS are identified as English language learners, posted opportunities to give feedback remain available exclusively in English. Further emphasizing the lack of community support, at the Zion Hope Baptist Church community meeting, Greg Newland, a task force member, agreed when asked that more community input should have been included and even volunteered to give up his place on the task force to a community member. As a school board, you face difficult decisions. For that, I do not envy you. What I do demand, however, as a taxpayer, voter, and most importantly, as an advocate for students, is that you practice what you preach. With so much power and influence coming to our district from outsiders, I ask you to remember the community members who have been firmly rooted in Indianapolis for years, many of whom are students and families of color. The proposed changes only exacerbate issues of racial inequity in our city and neglect this entire component of your strategic plan. Vote no on any innovation partnerships and facility recommendations until you commission a new community-centered task force that is representative of the students and families we serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
After Dan Kello, we have Josh Bowling.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Dan Kello. I've been a teacher at George Washington for the past 5 years. I'm the current association representative for the IEA at George Washington. Tonight I speak to you on behalf of numerous teachers at George Washington who have raised concerns about the lack of transparency and community input in the school closing process. As teachers at one of the 7 IPS high schools being discussed for closure, we were explicitly advised by the district to not attend the public community meeting in which information about the task force report would be discussed and members of the task force would be available to answer questions. The reason cited for this was that there would be meetings at the school for staff as well as assemblies for students in order to help people understand the district's position as well as collect input from the staff and students. The district had scheduled a student assembly and separate faculty meeting at George Washington for this past Tuesday, May 23rd. On the morning of the scheduled meetings, the district canceled both the assembly for the students and the meetings for faculty, giving no reason for the cancellation. Well, as of yesterday, the district has now rescheduled the meetings for June 1st. This notably occurs after the board meeting tonight, where public comment can take place on the information that the faculty and students should have been given on Tuesday. Historically across the district, student attendance has also become lower near the last day of school. Thus, this decision limits the number of students that will likely hear the presentation. Please tell me this. In a district that purports to want public input, how is it that after all the community meetings have been completed, the district canceled with no reason provided the promised meetings with the students and faculty at George Washington and rescheduled for a time that will occur after tonight's board meeting and will likely impact fewer students? This seems like yet another effort by the district to stifle community input. I've been a part of this community for the last 5 years, and I feel very strongly about the family that I've been able to create at George Washington and the community and our students. And I'm very disappointed at the lack of voice that our kids have had and that our faculty has had. And I really worry about what the impact will be on our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
After Josh Bowling, we'll have Shatoya Jordan.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Josh Bowling. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator at Purdue Polytechnic High School. Just as an aside, the last time I spoke at an IPS board meeting was in 1995 when I was a junior at Howell High School. So those of you might remember how that went down. Very glad to kind of be here to kind of tell you about what's happening with Purdue Polytechnic. We are under 80 days from kind of our opening on July 31st, and we've been working really hard to kind of engage our families and our new incoming freshmen. And so we've done a series of events that we thought was a good way to both have a good time and be able to kind of let them get to know each other, let them get to know how our school will be a little bit different than kind of what they've experienced in the past, and just give them an opportunity to be introduced to kind of what's offered at West Lafayette. I was really glad, Shortridge, thank you very much for getting us that last second victory, 3-2 over IU Bloomington with our Vals and Sals where they're heading. So we were able to kind of bring our students to an Indy Fuel game to kind of look at kind of what hockey looks like. It's one of the project partners that we'll have in year one. And so we were able to do that. We went to a campus visit up at West Lafayette and let them see kind of what the college version of the Polytechnic looks like. We just had an event this past week where over 100 of our students and families attended up at Developer Town to kind of introduce them to some of the clubs and things that happen in West Lafayette that we are going to have available for them in the high school. And then we have a pretty big role in kind of what's happening with the INX3 conference coming to Indianapolis, Tech Startup Conference. And we'll be able to engage our students and then our families at the block party of the evening. And then we're going to have a back-to-school night here very, very much sooner than I think we're ready for come July 27th. So we're excited to kind of get going. Wanted you all to hear kind of the progress we've made with our students and families. I did have Mr. Paxton kind of show up. His daughter will be a freshman with us in July. I just wanted to see if he had any words to say.
Good evening. Thank you for giving us a few moments. Since in the past 10 years, my daughter's attended the Oaks Academy, and the Oaks Academy has an extremely high level of parental involvement. When we started down the path with Purdue, we were excited to see that level of parental involvement continuing. Purdue has reached out aggressively and engaged us as parents and families, and even especially as students, to build an excitement about what's coming, to help establish camaraderie among the students before they ever open the doors for the first time. The event up at Purdue especially developed some bonds between my daughter and a couple other girls, and that's helped a lot. She was very worried that no one else from her school was going to Purdue, and what was she going to do? But God has His plans, and He's directed her to Purdue through His providential means. And we're excited about what this is going to mean for her ability to advance in science and math and technology, which are areas that she absolutely loves. So we're excited about what's happening at Purdue. We're looking forward to great things going on, and we love the warm and energetic embrace that they've given to us as families. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shatoya Jordan is our final public commenter during general public comment this evening.
My name is Shatoya Jordan. I'm the principal for Purdue Polytechnic High School, and I thank Josh and the parents for coming and talking highly of our parent engagement. I just want to give an update on some of our numbers. Right now we have 150 plus students that are enrolled with us. And out of that 150 plus, we have about 100 students that live in the IPS attendance zone. So I'm proud to say that. And I also want to thank the principals that allowed us to go into the middle schools and talk to the parents and work with the kids and get them excited about our schools. Roughly from that 100, about half of them live and attended a IPS school. last year, or attending currently, I guess now, and I'm thinking of last year now and already. And then roughly half of them attended a charter school or attending a charter school as we speak. And so we'll be bringing those students back under the umbrella of IPS. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity, for the agreement with us, and thank you for the opportunity for allowing us to have your students involved in our school. Ready to go.
Thank you. Having received opening comments from the board and the public, we'll now proceed to the consent agenda. The items included on the consent agenda were reviewed at our agenda review session on Tuesday and reflect all necessary modifications. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. I'll now turn the agenda over to Dr. Farabee for Superintendent Reports.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you, Madam President. The first item for Superintendent Reports is item 6.01. It is a presentation to introduce our Career Academy model as we have further conversation with high school closure and consolidation. We haven't had the opportunity to address the reinvestment and how we are supporting our students in this model to ensure that there's a clear line of sight with career in college. So with that, I'll turn to Dr. LeGrand and Ben Carter, who will present this evening. We also have a number of partners with us as well that will be introduced that are supporting this academic model.
Great, thank you. Good evening. So today we're going to start with a labor market analysis. We're going to talk a little bit about Career Academies, why Career Academies, what Career Academies are, what those offerings will look like. We have a couple of students that are going to share their experience in career pathways currently and kind of map that onto Career Academies, and then we'll open it up for questions. So the first thing we're going to start with is a labor market analysis from Sally Reesner in Ascend, Indiana. So last summer, Jason Kloth provided a labor market analysis and introduced Ascend, Indiana to the board at a work session. And so we wanted to provide a refresher on that, a shortened version, and Sally's going to start us off with that labor market analysis right now.
Thank you so much. Okay, so here, this is a broad overview of what the labor market will look like in Central Indiana and the need for post-secondary degrees for our students coming out of high school. So when we look at the data, we find that by the year 2020, 62% of Indiana jobs will require some form of post-secondary credential. And right now, when we look at the labor or the workforce in Central Indiana, only 42% of residents have the degrees necessary to fill those roles. At Ascend, we looked at the gap and what those root causes are, and we narrowed it down to 4 main drivers. First, not enough students are enrolling in higher education. Second, when they do enroll, they aren't concentrating in high demand fields. Third, they're not completing those post-secondary credentials on time. And fourth, they're not finding a job and staying in Indiana upon graduation. There's one of these root causes that I will point out for you, and it's the concentration in high demand fields. There we go. This is looking at the demand is the light blue bar, and then the supply are the pink and green bars. And what's interesting is most oftentimes we think about STEM degrees being the highest demand fields. And although it shows here life sciences, IT, manufacturing, logistics are among those, we wanted to point out that financial services actually has the highest demand in Central Indiana. And those roles are business generalist roles that do require post-secondary credentials, but we think are a great career pathway for students. And essentially, when we boil that down to the numbers, what that looks like is a gap of 215,000 people. So this problem and this challenge is incredibly important for us to focus on because we will trail demand by over 200,000 workers if we don't begin to solve that now.
So why Career Academies? We wanted to start off with a labor market analysis because ultimately upon graduation we want to make sure that students are employed, enrolled, or enlisted, but ultimately empowered to make informed career decisions. And by adding Career Academies, that's going to allow students to be empowered to make those decisions. It's going to increase student engagement, and also when Sally talked about that pipeline, we're going to develop pipelines of our own through Career Academies. They're going to help to fill some of those high demand, high wage job opportunities and career opportunities in central Indiana. So what are Career Academies? Career Academies include elective career courses, so career and technical education courses and pathways aligned to industry demands. They also include career-themed projects that will take place in your core academic classes. So for instance, if you're in a construction technology pathway, maybe in your algebra class, you're going to be doing projects and you're cohorted with those kids that are in your construction technology courses. In your algebra class, you're going to do projects that are themed and aligned to that, and that helps to increase engagement for students. We're also going to have a continuum of work-based experiences. So that's on-the-job training, that's outside of the classroom, that's experiences for students to work alongside industry professionals, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into what that work-based continuum looks like and what that means later on in the presentation. But ultimately, outcomes for students, whether that means attending a technical college, whether that means a 4-year degree, we're going to provide them with the tools necessary to enter a career field that they feel empowered to enter. So providing them with a skill set, providing them with industry certifications, providing them with a leg up on their peers with dual credit, so that's high school credit and college credit at the same time, but ultimately also the employability skills. So that's where the work-based learning continuum comes in. They're going to have work experience, they're going to have some of those quote-unquote soft skills that we often so hear about that students need to enter that next stage of their lives. Because ultimately, it's not about just getting students to university for all or to that next stage, it's about persistence through those programs. And the Career Academies will help students do that. So right now, I want to talk a little bit about what it looks like for a student that might be in a Career Academy and start out with the career pathway. So if a student's going to be in a career elective pathway, what could that look like? So what I've done is I've invited a couple students, actually one alumni, one current student, to share a little bit about their experience in their career and technical education pathway, because that is the basis for the Career Academies. And so first I'm going to invite up Leona Huddleston.
Good evening. My name is Leona Huddleston, and I'm a senior at Arsenal Technical High School. At Arsenal Technical High School, I'm a part of the CTC program, which stands for Career Technology Center. What has the CTC done for me? Through this program, I have learned about site, construction management, surveying, design, and so on. As a result, I was able to obtain my Autodesk Revit Architectural User Certification through the Architectural Drafting and Design pathway within the Career Technology Center, and later received the State of Indiana Career in Technology Education Award of Excellence. I was able to acquire an internship with Kripe Architecture Engineer. The internship equipped me with skills and knowledge that I was able to use going off to college. I was able to sit in on client meetings with architects, visit construction sites, and make important connections with people that will be able to guide me on my journey. For the last 2 years, I have been a part of the ACE program in CTC. ACE is a national program which stands for Architectural, Construction, and Engineering, where you have professional mentors that have degrees in architecture and construction and learn about architecture, construction, and construction management. ACE is an after-school program for students that aspire to go into engineering but don't know which area to study. The program provides a broad outlook on engineering, exposing the students to real-life problems and solutions. The main goal for ACE is for students to be able to work together and create commercial buildings based on state criteria. The Career Technology Center, specifically the Architecture and Design pathway, has given me a head start when discussing college and career. I was able to work with programs such as Revit and AutoCAD, build relationships and gain mentors, and improve in many areas. I applied to 8 universities and got accepted to all of them. I have recently declared that I'll be attending Ball State majoring in architecture in the fall. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Garmany, and I graduated from Arsenal Technical High School last year in 2016. Now, in CTC, I took the class welding. I learned how to weld, the process of welding, and as long as with that, I also learned how to be punctual and many job skills that I have today that benefit me very, very well. I've received 2 certifications, one in stick and one in MIG welding. If you don't know anything about welding, it probably doesn't mean anything to you, but it has helped me get a job right out of high school. I graduated in June. In August, I had a full-time job making more than most of my peers who have graduated college. Now, how the welding program has set me up for success is a few different ways. It set me up for success because being in the welding program has given me many different opportunities to see through internships. I took 2 internships, one at Amtrak and one at Major Tool, and it gave me the skills needed. So when I came to my full-time job, I wasn't totally green or new. I knew what I was talking about. When I spoke with my coworkers, they knew I was educated, and I was able to benefit them as long as they were able to benefit me. Now, what company I work for Indiana Steel Fabricating, and I can, without a doubt, say that you've probably been one of the buildings I've built. I have a hand just down the street in downtown, 237 Pennsylvania Street. We are building a 9-story apartment building downtown. I can say I've dealt with that. If you've been in any new hospital in Indiana, I've probably built that as well. In many, many different buildings in the state of Indiana, as well as Virginia, Orlando, Florida, I have had my fair share in. Now, I was going to talk about numbers, but let me share all the things that I can do because of the CTC program. I can travel the world comfortably. I'm able to own a new, beautiful, brand new car, and I love my car. I actually can't wait to go back out and drive it right now, okay? That's all I'm thinking about. But it also gives me the opportunity to help other ones realize that you don't have to go to college in order to have a high-paying career. Now, I do plan on going back to college, but that is a choice because I want to better myself. But I do not have to support a family and to support myself well in the state of Indiana. So I definitely give thanks to the CTC program, and so much has happened in a year for me that I'm far beyond people who have graduated college just a year removed from high school, and I couldn't have done it without the CTC program in welding.
Yep. And Jonathan's also currently being trained to be a certified welding inspector by Indiana Steel, so a lot of career growth there. So this next slide kind of talks about curriculum connection. So I really wanted the students to share what it is to be in a CTE pathway, because I think there's a lot of negative stereotypes that come along with that. There's extreme rigor involved in career pathways. As you can see with Leona and Jonathan, they're setting students up for success, and that's a basis for Career Academies is the CTE pathway. So I wanted you to know what the experience is for a student. In addition to that, students will have the projects in their core academic classes that align to what they're doing. So, in their math class, they deal with skills that welders deal with, or, and architects deal with. So there'd be a lot of alignment between their pathways and what they're doing in their core academic classes. This particular slide shows all the different curricular options currently in IPS. So as you move kind of around the square, you've got your core classes, English, math, science, social studies. We have our liberal arts courses, choice programs, your foreign language, CT pathways, other electives, and arts. And I think the point of this slide, ultimately in the middle you see your advanced level courses. Now these advanced level courses, whether it be IB, AP, dual credit, the rigor that we all speak about permeates through all of these different courses. And just because we have career academies doesn't mean that it's a track for students. It's ultimately to provide access to students and empower them to make informed decisions so that they know what's available. They're still going to participate in all their other core academic classes. There's still a lot of rigor in the CTE programs, as you can see from the students that spoke. And so now we've selected 6 sectors to really focus in on. And Sally spoke a little bit about the labor analysis and the demand in Central Indiana, and that really helped us out. But the 3 key data points that we used, one was the labor market analysis, so supply and demand in Central Indiana. One was student interest, and the other was industry post-secondary partnerships. So when all 3 of those are trending high, that was a key for us that we need to focus on that sector. And here you see some of the data sources that were used to determine the need in Central Indiana. This next slide shows you that we surveyed around 4,000 students using Naviance on 67 different career fields. Now, we know that all students don't necessarily understand all the career pathways that are available to them, but as you can see, we surveyed them, we pulled out the most popular, and we worked the alignment to the ones that we selected as well. So there's really strong alignment between what students are interested in, what the demand is in Central Indiana, and also the sectors that we're focusing on. So the sectors that we're focusing on are the ones on the right where it says career fields offered. Now, one of the most important pieces of this, obviously, is making sure that we're setting students up with the skills that matter most in the industries and that our pathways are aligned to the need. But it's also business partner engagement. It's post-secondary engagement. and we have really strong engagement. So what we did was we set out and we have 6 sector committees, each with 10 to 15 post-secondary and industry partners. And what we're doing as IPS team leads is facilitating those meetings and letting the business and industry decide what skills matter most for our students in those industries and helping us build our pathways and design our pathways. We're not coming at it and saying, here's our pathways, here's what we're going to do. We're asking, what should we be teaching our students? What skills should our students have once they graduate? And how do we get them to that high-demand, high-wage career field? And before we get to the folks that are listed that are going to speak, and actually those names have changed, to be honest with you, I'm going to recognize some people that have attended today and that are in the audience with us. So we have Pat Spencer from Blue Lock, Marie McIntosh from Employ Indy, Kim Brand from First Makerspace, Corey Bacon from Heartland Foods, Ryan Steiner from Messer Construction, Jason Roth, Ivy Tech, Daryl Wilson Dotson, WDI Architecture, Kiana Walker, Next Grade Architects, Steve Bardonner, Ivy Tech, Russ Duvall, Langham Logistics, Leslie Payne, Simon Malls, Kathy Graham's Ivy Tech, Diane Smith, Ivy Tech, Eric Anderson, Airport Authority, Jane Dunnigan Smith, Eli Lilly. And I mentioned those names just to say, you know, it's before Memorial Day weekend, but we have really, really strong support from employers. We have really, really strong input, and these folks have shown up just to provide their support. But right now, I want you to hear from 3 folks. We actually have Marie McIntosh. We don't have Pat Walsh and Karen Jung. They were actually pulled out of town last minute, but we did have people that wanted to fill in. So we have Ryan Steiner from Messer Construction and Corey from Heartland Foods. But we're going to start with Marie, and she's going to kind of share briefly her involvement so far.
I am really excited to be here today to talk a little bit about Employ Indy's involvement. Employ Indy is the Marion County Workforce Board. Our board is appointed by Mayor Hogsett, and more than 50% of our board are business members in the community. And the remainder are workforce development folks who are interested in trying to help individuals to figure out how to connect to jobs that are available in our community. Our vision is to make sure all Marion County residents have access to career pathways that help them get into the jobs that employers have available. And specific to the work of the Career Academies, our excitement around the Career Academies is the focus that Ben and his team is taking around sector partnerships and making sure that businesses are really engaged, just essentially what he just said around the skill levels that employers are looking for, and making sure that it's specific to healthcare or to architecture or to construction or whichever industry is the most relevant. So I guess what I want to say as well is that Ascend Indiana has been a really critical partner for us. We work together a lot, as Ben referenced as well, to make sure that the labor market information for Indianapolis is clear to our community, and that we're trying to make it clear to all of our different partners who are really preparing students for the future. And the reason that these career academies matter from Employ Indy's perspective is that, you know, when you think of what students need in order to be successful in life, what they really need is to have a solid understanding as they're choosing their career of what they're good at, what they're passionate about, and what the world needs. And if you can get into the nexus, the middle of that, then we've really helped students to connect into what their future career might look like. And the Career Academies, we believe, with the work-based learning components especially that Ben has outlined, and I think we'll go into a little bit more detail, that's critical. And that's where Employ Indy really hopes to partner through our employability skills certificate work that we are doing, as well as through some work-based learning partnerships that we think we can help leverage with our community partners and our business partners. We really believe that the Career Academies can help students across the board have a rigorous academic opportunity to connect to businesses and to the careers that they may not have thought about before. Just a few stats for you around youth employment. That's a key component of what we do as well. Youth employment stats. In 2000, 45% of youth, teenagers 16 to 19, were employed. Today, 26% are employed. And there's a lot of research, a lot of evidence that shows that for every year a youth works in his or her teens, it leads to an increase in salary once they're in their 20s of 14 to 16%. So those employability skills that you get when you're on your first job, everybody should think about what their first job was. That experience, maybe even finding out that it's not the type of job that you want to have for the rest of your life, is really critical And not enough youth today are having those opportunities. So we think that the connectivity of the business community coming in and wrapping their arms around these different academies, and Employ Indy and Ascend and other community partners helping to make those connections happen for students is really powerful, and will help IPS students to thrive as well as our community. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ryan Steinert. I'm working with Ben on the construction and engineering sector and his team. During the economic downturn in 2008, many of our trade workers and professionals left the industry, which has since fully recovered and is now really understaffed. Also, we've had an aging workforce with trouble attracting youth, in part because they've been sold that college is their only option. For these reasons, and across our industry, there's a lot of energy to attract young people to the architecture, engineering, and construction. Right now, there's a great opportunity for both placement and professional growth. This program is exciting because it provides several things to students. First, it provides an inside look at the career options and helps them make a decision what best suits them and their situation. Second, it provides training to enter the workforce or college and provides a leg up on their peers. And third, it provides industry contacts and for networking and employment opportunities. I'd like to thank you for your time, and I think that you'll find that the construction and engineering industry is ready to provide significant support for this program. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Corey Bacon, and I'm with Heartland Food Products Group. And I've had the opportunity to get involved with the Advanced Manufacturing, Engineering, and Logistics Academy. At Heartland, we are known for being a private label manufacturer of liquid water enhancers, aseptic products, and artificial sweeteners. However, in 2015, that landscape changed drastically when we acquired Splenda. So now we are competing in the brand market. So since that time, there has been a rapid change, rapid growth at the organization. There's several lines that have come in a short period of time. So I say all that because I see the needs and the difficulty it is with finding individuals who have been trained in skilled trades. So we are constantly looking for machine operators, maintenance technicians, forklift operators, engineers. It's across the board. We're constantly looking for those individuals. And what we're recognizing is that we're having to be more creative in how we attract those individuals. Not only that, we're finding the disconnects in training. So by getting involved with this Career Academy, I like being involved because it gives us the opportunity to be able to kind of hone and look at the curriculum and be able to have a voice in what we're looking for in students as they graduate from high school. I do recognize a lot of students don't necessarily want to go to college, and these are opportunities where individuals, if they get it in high school and they're able to perform the functions of the role, we are very interested in hiring them. We're also, as a part of the process, we think by giving back to the community, it also allows us to have a pipeline of candidates to be able to come in straight from high school and be able to do internships, have mentorships, job shadowing opportunities, and the organization has been tremendously supportive of the initiative that we're working on here. So we're constantly evaluating, looking at how it can benefit not only the community and building bridges with other corporations so that Heartland can benefit ultimately. Thank you.
So that's just kind of a brief insight into the role of some of our business and community leaders. On each of the academies, we have members from Ivy Tech, and we also have folks from post-secondary that are helping to guide the decision-making. And it's just been really important to honor their skill set and to lean on industry and post-secondary to make our decisions here. So what career academies did we land on? What sectors did we land with? So we have the Health Sciences Academy. We have Manufacturing, Engineering, Logistics, Teaching, Learning, and Leading. We have Construction, Engineering, and Design Academy, Business and Finance Academy, the IT Academy, and then also we're currently exploring with the Army the Military Academy. So what do those look like? So we have each of these sectors that we identified with those three data sources: the student interest, the labor market supply, and industry partners. But with our sector committees, we're defining what the pathways should be. So that's what our role is, and to define what student outcomes should look like, and backwards planning from there. So in Health Sciences Academy, you see our 4 pathways: health informatics, physical therapy, nursing, and biomedical sciences. You'll notice that the little badge there shows that a certification is available, an industry-recognized certification. And one thing I'll say about health informatics, definitely an up-and-coming field, and we'll be the only place in Indiana will be offering that career pathway for students. So we're excited about that. Manufacturing, Engineering, and Logistics Academy, which is what Corey just spoke on. We have 3 different pathways there: one advanced manufacturing, industrial engineering, and logistics. Teaching, learning, and leading, we know that is very difficult, and myself as an administrator know how difficult it is to find teachers and qualified folks to teach our students. And so we want to be creative about the pipelines that we create here in IPS, and we want to harvest our own talent of teachers and get students excited about coming back and teaching in IPS and create those internal pipelines of talent. We also have the early childhood pathway too. So this slide kind of gives you a look at the folks that are helping to advise. These are our folks that are on the sector committees, and these lists are ever growing, and we've had more added since the presentation was complete, but you can just see the breadth and depth of the folks that are involved with each sector advisory committee. All right, and rounding it out, we have construction and engineering. You see the 4 different pathways there, all with, that's what Ryan Steinert talked about. And Ryan was integral in deciding, you know, maybe we move away from HVAC and we move into a mechanical, electrical, and plumbing MEP pathway. It doesn't currently exist with the DOE, but we're able to innovate and create our own pathways, and this is what the industry needs, so that's the direction we're going to head. And so I'm really excited about how the conversations have shaped what education will look like for our students, and it's really just on the edge of innovation for some of these pathway designs. And then you can see business and finance. You saw the slide that Marie mentioned. The largest gap was in finance. So you see we'll have a finance and investment, marketing, office management, entrepreneurship, and then you have your IT Academy with 3 key pathways there, and finally with the Military Academy. And these are the folks that are supporting those academies, and then this has grown substantially as well. But you can see a lot of the investment in terms of the decision-making around these different academies and pathways that we've had thus far. All right, so what does that look like? So for next school year, you see our current options, our choice programs, the Career Technology Center, IB, Visual and Performing Arts, New Tech, Math Science, and the list continues on. And what you notice is in 2018-19, those choice programs are maintaining. We're still keeping those options for students. Students will still have access to the current choice programs. These are additional choice options for students, and this is really going to enhance the offerings in our, for our students in grades 9 through 12. And so it's really about enhancing our offerings and engaging our students at that same time. So you can see the academies are in gray, and those will be the additions for 2018-2019. So in terms of pathways, this is kind of a busy slide. Currently we have 16 career pathways at the Career Technology Center, but as you see, we move on. We're adding 5 new next year, and then up to 34 pathways. So in turn, we're doubling our career pathways. Now, why are we doubling our career pathways? We want to be intentional about empowering our students. And ultimately, we've seen a ton of success for students that participate in applicable career pathway work, project-based learning that aligns to the jobs of the future. In CTC, students who participate in career and technical education, our graduation rate is 91%. Students in post-secondary placement rate is 95%, and it's going to continue to grow. Have over 100 internships. Students are persisting, and you heard from a couple here that are going to be extremely successful. Today we had a computer science presentation, which Dr. LeGrand was able to attend. Of all the seniors that completed the program, we actually just launched the program last year. We had a senior class. All are enrolled in a 4-year university. 4 are actually going to Purdue to study computer science. A couple are going to Taylor University to study computer science, and a couple others are going to study engineering or STEM-based fields. So there's just a lot of opportunities, and we kind of need to move away from the, we're just going to send them to university, or CTE means just straight into employment. It means both. It means what's best for the student, and that's what these pathways are going to provide the students. So concluding with the other component of it, so we've got the career pathways. We have the project-based units within the core academic classes that align to those pathways, but then we also have the work-based continuum. And this is what I'm most excited about. And this is where I see the most tremendous impact and transformation within our students at the Career Center. So this is the continuum, minimal standards that we expect students to experience in their 8th through 12th grade trajectory. As you can see, students begin in 8th grade with the JA Job Spark, where all of our 8th graders get to explore 6 different career clusters, and that will link into our 6 different career academies and the other choice options that are available across IPS and our innovation schools. And from there, students in 9th grade, on the school side, they'll be participating in Preparing for College and Careers class, where they'll get to explore all the different careers at their school, in their academies, and then they'll get to choose out of a menu of job site tours that are linked to the career academies at their school site. They'll get to participate in that job site tour and really kind of solidify for their sophomore year what pathway they want to select. And then as you move from 10th through 12th grade, you see that the experiences get a little more rigorous, a little more defined, and ultimately these are minimums. So we do expect students as juniors to be participating in internships and continuing job shadows, lots of guest speakers, but these are the minimums that we're going to track and that will provide public-facing results to share with folks. And you'll see on here too, financial literacy events and employability skill events. And Marie spoke about the employability skill curriculum that we're putting together. And we're really working with Marie for a badge program, so students can earn employability skill badges along the way, which will help them to get those quote-unquote soft skills necessary to persist, whether that's through a 4-year degree or straight into employment. So those soft skills are necessary in any different, depending on what the trajectory is for that student. And then the other badge you see on there is the Naviance tasks. So we kind of embedded our current Naviance tasks that really align well with our work-based learning continuum. And so I know this is a lot of information, but I would love to open it up for questions from you all at this point.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you also to our partners. Also great to hear from students as always, and also alumni who can speak to their experience in IPS and how that's translated to a successful work experience. Congratulations on that car that you love so much. And again, I think I can't speak enough about Ben's leadership and our ability to advance the number of students that are earning professional certifications and internship experiences. And as I close and prepare for commissioner comments and questions, just a reminder we shared on Tuesday evening as we conducted our high school closure meetings and discussed how we will reinvest resources into our high schools. One of the themes that we heard throughout those sessions was ensuring that we elevate career and technical education, ensuring that we offer more advanced level courses and give students more options. And I believe what's been presented tonight confirms that commitment and aligns well to the interests of our students and also high demand, high wage opportunities in central Indiana and beyond. So again, thank you, Ben, and everyone who presented tonight.
I believe Commissioner Gore had her hand up first.
Okay. Good evening, and thank you for coming. I want to say thank you to our alumni and to the student. It's very good to know that in this day of the economic crisis that we're going through, that we are offering the Career Academies and that our students will come out able to be employed and able to go to college if they like through your program. Because that was one of the things that I think people are concerned that they're not going to be ready for college, and you have proven it tonight. So I look forward to more of the Career Training Academy.
Thank you. Commissioner Arnold?
I would just like to say, I say this every time I do a presentation, but how much I appreciate the effort of Mr. Carter and what he's done for our career technology. When I've always looked at other districts and what they were doing, what IPS was doing paled in comparison to that. And I think we're so fortunate to have your leadership and vision, and it fits right into the vision, I believe, of this administration and this board in moving forward and all the exciting opportunities. And we had programs at one time that students could go out of and get a job making $60,000, but we couldn't even get kids to get into those programs or be interested in those programs. So I think I speak for the whole board in saying we're fortunate to have you as the leader of this initiative and look forward to more and better results.
Thanks.
Mr. Bentley?
I echo what Commissioner Arnold said. It's always exciting when Mr. Carter comes and does a presentation to the board, because I just feel like it's exciting, it's positive. And I also just wanted to do a little shout out to, it's Leona, right? You know, I mean, IPS has had a long history of really strong career and technology education, and I think it's kind of ebbed and flowed, and right now we're seeing that excitement and kind of reinvigorating those programs. I just want to say my dad was a 1950 graduate from Tech High School, and he was talked into taking a drafting course when he was at Tech. And that he ended up going to the University of Cincinnati and majoring in architecture, and he retired as a fellow in the American Institute of Architecture. So I sort of I was getting sort of emotional hearing about your sort of pathway, because that was something that happened to him back in 1950, and it was that teacher that was teaching that drafting program at Tech, and there were a ton of students at that time that went on to architecture that became very, kind of famous in the architectural field. So I just, congratulations on that. And then, the welding, and congratulations on your car. But again, it's been a program that's been around for a while, and I'm glad that it's just getting reinvigorated and that we've had some success. I have a couple questions. The Career Academies that you outlined tonight, is that on top of the career and technology programs that you offer now, or will those be incorporated in these academies?
Yeah, that's a great question. So some will be incorporated. A large majority of the career pathways at the Career Technology Center will remain intact. Okay. We want to make sure that we keep our successful programs that are having positive outcomes for students intact, just like the other choice programs are going to remain as well. Okay. So it's kind of along those same lines. Some will shift, like I said about HVAC, shifting in construction, engineering and design, because it just makes sense for us to put it within the academy. But for the most part, the majority are staying at CTC.
Okay. And then it seems like when I look at the academies and sort of the different areas, that the pathway there are several pathways within those academies. So you could be in a pathway that would go on to a 4-year university, or you might, within that academy, or there might be a 2-year degree that might turn into a 4-year degree. Am I reading that correctly?
You're exactly right. And we have folks from Ivy Tech, I'm not sure if they're still here, but we talk about stackable credentials, and that's kind of what it's all about. Just for instance, we had a student that completed our computer science, didn't quite have the GPA to go to IUPUIs quite yet, but went to Ivy Tech and then participated in a work and learn in Cummins Information Security Department. And then this next year, he's going to transition over to IUPUI, School of Informatics and Computing, to complete his degree. So yes, to answer your question.
Okay. And then my last question is, there's, a lot of people get concerned that kids end up getting sort of stuck in a pathway. Once you're in it, you can't get out of it. But I don't think that's the case, and I just wanted you to sort of explain that to me. Right. And then also, all of the students are getting their Core 40 required classes, so that, if somebody is taking, for example, is in the Manufacturing, Engineering, Logistics Academy, and at the end of 4 years, they do all right, but they decide, that's just not my thing. It's not barring them from going on and doing something else, because they still have those core classes that they've taken.
Exactly. We see it. Students participate in a career pathway, then go on to a different field trajectory, but take away some of the skill sets that learn that pathway. So no, I don't think that we're necessarily tracking students or putting them into tracks, but really just providing them with exposure to the career fields. The answer is yes. They'll still participate in all their other classes. Again, this is a series of elective courses that they'll participate in, But the one key caveat about Career Academies is that in some of their core classes, there will be some projects that will be integrated that align to some of the career themes in their classes, so to increase engagement. So instead of having your silos, if I take all my math, I was a math teacher, so it can get kind of monotonous. But when that's aligned to a future job, a future career, and you have projects that actually align to some of the hands-on work that you're doing in your other classes, and you have community partners that are coming in and showing how that becomes applicable, then algebra becomes a lot more fun, geometry becomes a lot more fun, and then students in turn will have a lot more success.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much, and thanks to all the partners that are here this evening as well.
Mr. Carter, I have a couple, just kind of a question, concern. So on slide 21, that is labeled Choice in Academies. And I think several times you kind of mentioned the fact that for our high schools, all of our schools will be choices. So I'd just like to have maybe, and I talked to Dr. Farabee about this a little bit, a little discussion around kind of labeling. So the extent that we may be able to have more consistency and not encourage people to think of our career academies as different and, leading off with career, and so therefore kind of a misconception about what they are. Because I think while the board and many of the people who heard your presentation tonight understand the idea of pathways and how that plays out, I don't know that all of our families in the wider community will have that same level of understanding, and our students when making those choices. So I would just like to have a conversation about if there's a way we can have a more consistent language describing all of our choices for high school programs. So I just wanted to bring that up to both Dr. Farabee and the rest of my board members here. And to you.
Yeah, I think that is important, just in terms of educating our families and our students about the options that we have here in IPS. Again, I think that, I feel like what Dr. Farabee has done is created a wide and diverse menu of options to help all of our students succeed and ultimately find the right trajectory for themselves. And I just feel like this is just an addition to that menu of options. So I'm not sure exactly what the terminology for communicating that would look like, but.
Right, I agree. I'm just, I'm interested in having some consistency so that if you're looking at New Tech High or Humanities Magnet or Information and Technology Academy, like if you're coming into this system looking at those choices, that it's a level field.
Gotcha.
That everyone perceives each of those choices as an equal quality choice.
Right.
And I am concerned, again, that not everyone in the public and our families are going to immediately go there. So I just want to have more discussion on that before this is all finalized.
Yep.
Commissioner,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to
Bentley.
piggyback on that. When you look at 21, slide 21, you've got Choice Magnet as one little button, and then underneath Academies. And really, they're all the same thing. Yeah. They're all choices.
Yeah.
And so maybe that we just need to refer to them that way.
I think you're right. I think that one of the things was that people didn't really know what career academies were. So in this presentation, really delineating the differences, that this is something new and in addition to. But ultimately, you're right. It doesn't need to be consistent. It's a choice option.
Right.
And they're all on an equal playing field. I completely agree. And I think that this is just kind of illustrating that this is something new, just to kind of hammer home the point. This is what career academies are. Here they are. But they are choice options.
We're happy to have that conversation. We want to ensure that it's simple for our students and families to understand. Ultimately, though, our goal is being highlighted is, we want all of our students choosing an option for high school that they will be highly engaged in. And I think the graduation rate data on students that participate in these pathways currently and is representative of national data is that when students are more engaged in these pathways and options, they graduate on time and they're more successful when they leave us. And so we're happy to have that discussion as we think about our recommendations and considerations for our high school closures and what our high schools will look like as we go forward. This is something that we can bake into that conversation. I don't want to omit how important it is not only that our business partners be a part of this effort, but also our connections with the higher ed institutions. And so if Dr. LeGrand would just briefly speak to those partnerships as well as we close this topic.
Yes, it's very important for us to share that all the universities, and you'll see them on the graphic if you look at the slides that denote the partners, that the local universities have joined us, fully committed to supporting them. So you'll see Ivy Tech almost everywhere. You'll see IUPUI, UIndy, you'll see Butler, you'll see Purdue. So we have included those in our sector committees, but because of time, of course, we wanted to just select some people to share. So that's a part of our work so that students can, one, go straight to career if they can. If they choose to, go to a 2-year school. Ivy Tech's a great partner of the district, or go on to a 4-year school, which, of course, we heard about Leona doing that as well. So we don't want to not give a shout out to our university partners because they've been wonderful to us.
And we also have a number of people here, as Ben mentioned earlier, that are not a part of the presentation, but are either supporting us in this effort or part of the planning committee. And so any external partners that have been a part of this process that are in the audience this evening, if you could please stand and be recognized, we appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Ben and team. And again, commissioners, we appreciate your support for ensuring that we're able to expand our options for our high school students.
Exciting.
Thank you. The next agenda item under Superintendent Reports is 6.02. This presentation will include a briefing on our preschool enrollment and enrollment logic. A part of this presentation will also recommend our enrollment logic for the upcoming year and ensure that the community and commissioners are aware of our process and procedures. With that, I'll turn it over to Patrick Harrell, the Director of Enrollment and Options for the district.
Thank you, Superintendent Farabee, and hello, Commissioners. We just finished up our final round of the lottery selection for our pre-K all the way through 12 schools. Tonight, we're going to focus on pre-K. We'll come back to you and give you a more detailed report on what ended up happening with our K through 12, mainly because we're still kind of shuffling things out as parents make final decisions, we make final offers. But tonight, we're talking about the enrollment policies as they pertain to pre-K. We're going to talk about the lottery logic that we currently use across pre-K through 12. We're going to talk about the impact at the pre-K level that our current policy has on families. And we're basically going to ask the question, what are our options and should we consider changing the policies that we currently have for pre-K enrollment? So starting off, and this should be a reminder, I know you all know this well because you engaged in this discussion over several years, but right now we have a separate approach to how we admit pre-K students to K through 12 students, and that was done very intentionally. We want to make sure that our K through 12 choice programs are accessible to all families equitably. And the concern was if you gave kids who entered pre-K virtually automatic entrance or preferred entrance into that same choice program, if it existed there, the danger, since we are not able to provide transportation to pre-K kids, is that you might end up seeing more families of means able to access pre-K because they're able to navigate the program without transportation, and you would disproportionately advantage higher income families in the kindergarten admissions process. So for that reason, among others, there was an intentional decision to separate the entrance processes for pre-K and kindergarten, and then kindergarten through 12th grade. So as you see up here for K through 12, you all came up with and approved a lottery logic that gave specific priorities based on sibling priority, neighborhood proximity, and you shrunk that down to a half-mile radius around the schools, loyal applicant priority, and IPS employee priority. We intentionally did not apply those to the pre-K level. And that was done for a couple reasons, as I understand. It was both because you all wanted to make sure that there was a separate process for pre-K and K through 12, but also because we don't have pre-K at all of our sites. And so the idea was the district wanted to make those programs equally available to all children across the district. Now, the implication of that is that there are some families who are at choice programs who have pre-K sites whose siblings aren't able to go to that pre-K program because we don't offer sibling priority. Here's a quote from a letter from a parent who put some real teeth behind what that means for her family, who made a very intentional choice to choose IPS and wants to keep her families together. Putting some numbers behind what that parent was talking about, we had about 729 families apply for pre-K seats across the district. 265 of those families had siblings at IPS. 113 of them had siblings at the school they were applying to. So this does impact a pretty significant number of families. Based on the total number of applications, there are, as of when we put this presentation together late last week, 19 families who had a sibling who wanted to go to the school that their K-8 sibling was at, who did not get in, but might have gotten in had they had a sibling preference. And so I think this demands that we ask the question, are we still comfortable with the policy as it stands of not giving priorities in the pre-K lottery? The larger question behind that is, what are our different options? So option number 1, we could stick with no priorities. Option 2 and 3, we could add either a sibling or a neighborhood priority or both. Option number 4, we could use all priorities. The one thing I want to say is that even when we're discussing whether or not we should add these priorities, what we're not discussing is giving pre-K kids a leg up in getting into that K program, mainly because of that equity issue we discussed earlier. When we think about not changing the priorities, keeping them as they are, the obvious downside on the right is the impact on families. We've seen that. The upside is, in my mind, an equity question. So right now we have 155 open seats at pre-K. Last year, as of late July, we had over 271 pre-K seats. And frankly, that change of increasing the demand is very much due to Beth Gould and the team that oversees the pre-K programs. But we're seeing more and more interest earlier and earlier in our pre-K programs. The risk if we add priorities is that we are moving away from a system that is equal access to all families across the district, especially because we don't have pre-K everywhere. If we add sibling or neighborhood, there's an obvious benefit. This board has talked about their eagerness to keep families together and that being something that they value. It would address that. And frankly, in our current state, where we don't have full enrollment, it could help keep families together while not necessarily hurting other families because we have open seats at other schools. So both with the addition of sibling and or neighborhood preference, right now there's no immediate negative impact. Similarly, for all priorities, we would have a consistent admissions process, but it would be shifting away from all families. So as we think about recommendations, in my mind, the key here is we want to make sure that we have a policy that works now, but also works tomorrow. And in my mind, the biggest risk of adding sibling or neighborhood priorities, especially as we see interest in pre-K increase over time, is that in the future, we could find ourselves in a place where a family who is at an IPS school that just doesn't happen to have a pre-K at that location has a lower chance of getting into our pre-K systems just because they weren't lucky enough to be at a place where we chose to place pre-K. Whereas a family who was lucky enough to be at a school that we chose to put pre-K at has an increased advantage of getting into that school. For that reason, the recommendation tonight is that we keep the no priorities, but I think it's important to bring this to you all, even though I'm not recommending and we're not recommending a change, because this board has talked about the importance it places on keeping families together. So that's the recommendation that we have. The essential question then is that the right approach, and are there different perspectives from the board on what our priorities should be?
Mr. Bentley?
A classic catch-22. Do we look at, because I know we offer pre-K programs, but then there are other non-IPS providers of pre-K programs that are getting funding from United Way and such. So do we sort of track where those programs are to see where there are holes, where there are areas that, do not have any pre-K opportunities? That's question number one. And then question number two do we have plans to expand our pre-K offerings anytime? I know funding is always the issue, but I didn't know if that was something that we would be looking at.
We do collaborate with United Way, which manages the On My Way pre-K scholarships that are available to families, and we work together to ensure that families are aware of our offerings and ensure that as many students in Indianapolis and Marion County that have the need are able to connect with the service providers who meet the standards. In terms of adding additional classrooms, we don't believe that we're in a financial position at this point to do so. However, we have shifted classrooms to different locations based on need and demand. And we want to ensure as much as possible that we can place our preschool programs in schools that are closest to communities where there's greater need. And as a result, we have established new classrooms at various schools, and we also have some philanthropy that also supports preschools at certain sites. But some of that work has been shifting from one site to another. A great example of that is historically the Francis Bellamy campus has been a preschool site where a number of classes have been housed. However, we've moved some of those classes out to neighborhood schools to get those services closer to families. Just given the location of the Francis Bellamy site, it's been a challenge for some families who don't live on the east side, but we still have some classes there.
Okay. Because I asked that question because, I understand the concern about giving an advantage, because we have preschool sites they're not at all of our magnet programs, right? Just
No,
some
they're
of
not.
them. School
Yes.
60, the school
27, CFI 27.
And those are the only two, right? Or does 70
I
have
believe so. 70 does not.
Okay.
I believe those are the
So we're
only
talking about two preschools out of, how many preschools do we have?
25.
25.
25 sites.
Okay, so we have 2 out of 25 that might advantage families by giving a sibling preference. And so I'm not sure, right? Because
So the sibling preference, though, would also apply if you have a older sibling at a neighborhood school, even though entrance to that neighborhood school has nothing to do with the K-12 choice lottery.
Gotcha. Okay, all right. Okay. I see, I just see both sides of this. I think it is important to keep families together. So I don't know what I agree. That you're not making a recommendation to change anything, and I'm not supportive of that. But I also am trying to figure out how we address the other issue, which I think is legitimate. And the reason I brought up the non-IPS, preschool programs, that are ranked, what is
Path to quality.
Thank you. Path to quality is that, just making sure that we don't have just sort of some dead zones in the city where there are no options for families. So, if they don't get into one of our programs, there's a program in their neighborhood that might not be operated by IPS, but it's a Paths to Quality 4 program, which, it indicates that it's a quality program. So that's where I was getting at on that.
Commissioner Hoops? I have a question about just placement after a family has been selected. It's a random selection, correct? And so how do you determine where a family will be, or the child will be given there's 27 sites? What's the criteria?
Yeah, good question. The family, when they apply, get to choose up to 3 of the sites that they preference, that they tell us this is where we want to go. They're then assigned a random lottery number, and the seats at each of those schools are filled based on what that random lottery number is. And so then a family, if let's say your child gets into your first preferred and your second preferred, we'd only offer you your first preferred school, since you've told us that's the one you want most, and then we'd give that seat at your second preferred to someone else who hadn't made that first cut. And that's also how the wait lists are generated. So if you as a parent decide not to send your pre-K child there, the first person on the wait list would get offered that seat down the line.
It just seems to me, and maybe it doesn't work with your current sort of process, that it's random selected where someone is currently with no priorities, but that then there's a secondary factor once that family has been selected, that some account is taken, that they're going to be in a school, but priority is given to placement given that they have a sibling in that specific magnet program.
Sure.
Would that be possible with how you're currently doing it?
Not currently, and I think the challenge that is created is that the numbers are actually interesting right now. We have 729 families who applied for a seat. We have 729 open pre-K seats. And so your question should be, why are there 19 of these kids, and why are there a lot who didn't get a placement, and more than that, this is just for siblings? And that's mainly because even though the quality across all of our pre-K programs is uniformly very high, the interest in those programs is not consistent. And so it's really driven by parents wanting certain schools and not others, ignoring, frankly, the uniform high quality of our pre-K programs.
Also, it would be possible in these very, very popular programs with lots of interest that you could, if we gave a sibling preference, you could get into the preschool and then not get into the kindergarten because there's no preference for being in the preschool doesn't count for rolling up into kindergarten. So a family may get 1 year in the preschool and have their whole family together, but then because there's enough siblings in the lottery for the kindergarten places, they would not get into a kindergarten placement. So we have several different problems, but one of them is that we have really, really popular programs, and we got to figure out how to accommodate these really, really popular programs, the number of kids that want to get in there. But that would be very frustrating, I think, as well. And I think it's a very plausible scenario given the number of people interested in those schools. So, for me, I think we've already stated kind of our core commitments and beliefs, and equity is right in there at the top. And I think we need to figure out some different solutions on how to deal with this. If we ever get to the day where we could have universal pre-K and IPS, that would be awesome. And if we ever get to the day where we can provide transportation for pre-K kids, that'll also kind of make some of this go away. But for me, right now, I have to agree that the equity considerations outweigh some of the other issues. But I do want us to try to work on fixing that problem, which is really kind of a separate problem. Commissioner Bentley.
Well, and I think part of it is exasperated because we've got to expand some of these K-8 programs that have these high, that are high demand. I mean, I haven't heard as many complaints about this particular issue as I have with families who are in a preschool program and they've applied to the K-8 program and have not gotten in, and they've sort of created, they're part of the community of that school. They've, created a community within the preschool, and then all of a sudden they weren't able to get a spot for kindergarten. That's the complaint I hear more than anything. And that, I think, goes back to the problem of having, these high demand programs that we really need to figure out how we're going to expand.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Arnold.
How do we determine which schools get preschool programs and which ones? I know there's some associated with magnets like Montessori and but are any of them attached like it's a high priority school, and the thought is if we put a preschool there, potentially the children that are going to matriculate on up into the elementary school will have that? How do we decide where to put them?
We study demand and need, and so to your example, in terms of concentration of poverty, if there's a school where there's a high concentration of poverty and we see a disproportionate number of students in the early grades, kindergarten, first, second grade, that are struggling with early literacy skills, we always consider those sites as potential places where we could house pre-K classes. And then beyond that, we always have to look at capacity. Because some of our schools are at above capacity, and it doesn't allow for us to add pre-K classes, but then we do have space and more space than others in some campuses. And so as we think about replicating some of our high-demand, high-performing programs, also capacity utilization at our elementary schools is something that we may need to study as well. That would allow us to perhaps maybe shift some pre-K classes from different sites. But I think there are a number of options that are available to us, and we continue to partner with United Way and ensure that as many students that need this opportunity get the opportunity. I know we receive some students that have the benefit of participating in your program at Hawthorne, and so our partnerships with other providers is also important. But what we do know is we have very compelling data on the students that participate in our preschool program, and the acquisition of early literacy skill is significant, statistically significant in terms of them being prepared for kindergarten, and ultimately that is what we want. But there are a number of creative options that we may need to consider down the road as well. There is a national urban movement around kind of storefront preschool as well. So as we think about additional funding that may come our way for preschool, we're ready to have that conversation and put some ideas on the table.
So just one more question. So if a preschool is held at a Montessori school, is the preschool curriculum a Montessori, or is it just all, as you said, the quality is the same across the board? But if it's in a school that the elementary school has like the CFIs or whatever, does that carry down into the preschool curriculum as well?
Yes, and in fact at Montessori they do the grade spans. They have multiple grades together, and that includes incorporating pre-K kids with kindergarten kids, so it is a Montessori pre-K.
So that could influence parents that if they want their child to matriculate into the Montessori model, they would want them to be in the Montessori preschool.
Yes, that's certainly one we've heard quite a bit of, frustration from families who are in a Montessori pre-K and don't have guaranteed access for the reasons we described earlier to that kindergarten at that same Montessori program. That's certainly a really good example of where we hear frustration from families.
And so the ones that are not attached to a magnet just do a kindergarten readiness curriculum. I mean, I know there's Indiana state standards for preschool and...
Yes, essentially yes. They don't have a particular focus like a Montessori.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Moving to Section 7, we've completed all the superintendent reports for information in Section 6. However, in Section 7, with unfinished business, the first item is 7.01. It is our first item being presented tonight for action. The executive summary aligns with the administration recommendation. The administration is recommending the modification to board policy and administrative guidelines for classified reduction in force. We ask that commissioners consider the revisions for action as presented.
Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 7745, approving the modifications as presented?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
Is this the 30? Is this going into the 30-day thing, or has it already been sitting for 30 days? It already has. Okay, couldn't remember. All right. Thanks.
Any other discussion?
If this is a policy, we don't have to do a roll call vote?
We do.
I record it as a roll call. As long as it's unanimous, I just record the yeas and nays in the minutes.
So, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries.
Next section is new business. Again, these are action items for consideration. These items have been presented and discussed at our agenda review session as well. First item is 8.01. In your materials, commissioners, you'll find an innovation briefing that was presented on Tuesday evening, along with resolutions for innovation Network School Agreement and also any documents associated with those agreements. We ask that commissioners consider for action the Innovation Network Agreements between IPS and the Indianapolis Classical School for Heron and Riverside High School as presented.
I think we're on item 8.01. I'm sorry. Oh, that's not what we have. At least that's not.
We have ENTP.
If you refresh your browser, it will reflect 8.01. The order was changed on the agenda from earlier in the day due to public commenters. So if you refresh the browser, it'll show 8.01 as Heron and Riverside.
Well, let's try that.
No, how to
do what? Just hit refresh up here, that circle, that thing,
I refreshed mine.
Of course you will. Well, okay.
Is there public
Look
comment?
at that.
I'll just
It worked.
So is it going to have the same resolution number? I'm sorry.
7747 and 7748.
Sorry, excuse me. Found it. So again, I'm sorry. So the resolution is still 7747. Is that correct?
Yes, the resolution is still 7747. The Innovation Network Agreements are included in your materials along with the innovation briefing. There may be some public commenters for this item. I'm not sure if that is the case.
And I have in my notes that we're going to take these each separately.
Okay.
Okay. As a separate motion. So do we have any public speakers on this topic?
We do.
Okay. Do we want to go ahead and do that now, or we do that after the motion? Go ahead and do it now. Okay. Thank you.
Our first commenter on this item is Catherine Mahern, followed by Denisha Reeves.
Excuse me. Good evening. My name is Kathy Mahern. I'm a parent of 2 children who attended IPS Center for Inquiry 2, Arsenal Tech High School, and now attend Heron High School. As a parent, homeowner, and a small business owner in the IPS school district, I am here to offer support for the proposal of the Indianapolis Classical Schools, Heron and Riverside High Schools, becoming innovation charter schools in partnership with IPS. I am pleased the partnership will ensure enrollment preference to students living near these schools and that IPS middle schoolers will have more information to consider this classical education model for their futures. Our decision to transfer high schools was less about leaving IPS and more about challenging my teens with a more rigorous classical education in a diverse environment surrounded by enthusiastic teachers and fellow students. They will be ready for college. In fact, this past week, we attended Heron's graduation, where 100% of the graduates will be attending college, university, or entering the military in the fall. The mission of Heron and now Riverside is to make this world-class education available across Indianapolis. Joining forces with IPS as an innovation charter school is the way to make it happen. In no way am I an expert on this subject. It's very new to me. Admittedly, I have been at times a skeptic of the charter schools, but now I am encouraged and optimistic about the future of IPS because of the innovation charter schools. I expect success based on the outstanding leadership of Heron and the willingness of our IPS school board to support the innovation charter schools. I am happy and proud to be a part of Heron High School and our IPS school district. Both are willing to make progressive changes to improve the education for all students. My kids are thriving because of the experiences they have had through IPS and Heron, and now many more will too. Thank you.
Thank you.
After Denisha Reeves, we have Christina Smith.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Denisha Reeves, and I am a graduate of the class of 2015 of Heron High School. I currently attend Indiana State University, and I'm going into my junior year studying elementary education with a minor in special education. I also had the privilege of participating in the Northwest Area Vision Circles this past summer, and I often heard about the need for equality education in my neighborhood. I'm here today in support of both Heron High School and Riverside High School becoming a part of the I'm here in supporting Heron High School and Riverside High School. Innovation Schools Network through IPS. I'm a resident of Riverside, and I'm very excited to hear that students of my area and demographics will have the same diverse, mission-focused, supportive, educational that I received at Heron High School. I was in the classroom daily with many students with different backgrounds, religion, and socioeconomic status. However, we all had a common bond, being Heron High School scholars, and respecting and embracing each other's similarities and differences. More students in our city deserve this type of quality education. I look forward to watching Riverside High School grow and become one with the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
After Christina Smith, we have Amy Arnold.
Good evening, Commissioners. At the March board meeting, when Heron presented their interest in becoming an innovation charter school, several board members had questions. IPS student priority, transportation, and enrollment procedures were all among these. When I read the official agreements that are up for a vote tonight, none of these are adequately addressed, and what is outlined does not increase the benefits to IPS students. Of the 8 neighborhoods that are outlined for Heron High School, I was only able to find official boundaries for a couple. Using those and partial data for others, a clear picture emerges. As a whole, those neighborhoods tend to be whiter and more affluent than IPS as a whole. There are no neighborhoods listed in the agreement for Riverside High School, which is troubling. If a radius were drawn for each of the schools, as is done with IPS magnets, greater diversity may be achieved. Other than these few neighborhoods, there is no additional priority given for IPS students. If this is to be an IPS school using funding from IPS, should IPS students have top priority? During the March presentation, we were told that Heron would like to access additional funding that it will gain through its partnership with IPS. Part of these funds were needed for transportation. Heron does not currently provide transportation to and from school for its students. Heron and Riverside are also not agreeing to provide transportation to and from school for its students. This provides an extreme barrier for many IPS families. Currently, Heron and Riverside have an extremely limited enrollment timeline, a few days in early November. Their spots fill up quickly and rarely open afterwards. The enrollment for the upcoming school year has already been set. They have a 50% non-IPS district population. This agreement will not provide any additional benefit for IPS students in this coming year and not provide those benefits until 2018-2019. Then it will only really be for incoming freshmen. IPS should require that Heron and Riverside adhere to the same enrollment procedures that other IPS choice schools do and not start this agreement until the 2018-2019 school year. Additionally, in section 9.07, it is agreed that there is only one ADM count per year and that payments will be based on that. The state bases funding to the district on 2 separate ADM counts. This agreement does not give Heron or Riverside any incentive to replace students mid-year, and wouldn't IPS lose the state funding for students not backfilled? These agreements provide no additional benefit to IPS students than what Heron already provides. If we bring them into the IPS portfolio, All of our students should be top priority. IPS is taking on an additional 2 high schools in this same time when the district is closing 3 high schools just to save 2%. How can you justify to the thousands of IPS high school students that these 2 schools, which most will not have access to, are more important than theirs? In addition, it has been found out that a benefactor that donated $2 million to Heron High School, that's now in litigation, so they are $1.6 million short of their previously stated capital gifts and are in financial trouble. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy Arnold, if still present, is our final commenter on this topic.
Good evening, Commissioners, Superintendent Fairby, administrators. I'm here to speak with you tonight as a parent of Heron High School and IPS. My students, I have 3 daughters, and they started out attending IPS schools. I have one 7th grader still at Seidner Academy. We did choose to send my oldest daughter to Heron High School. At the time, 3.5 years ago, when we were beginning to search for high schools for her, there was not an option available nearby us that met her needs, but Heron High School did. It offered a small program, and I saw in Heron the same similar characteristics that I saw at Seidner Academy that I found so appealing, and that was high expectations for students. Seidner has had very high expectations for my students, and I have appreciated that they have risen to those expectations. When my now almost a senior, when she started at Heron High School, she walked in the door, and the first thing she heard, as she recalled, is, "You're going to college, and we're going to get you there." And I am very proud to say that she has done very well at Heron. It has been a place of encouragement and support, and has done a very good job educating her. I'm grateful for both school systems, and I'm encouraged to see you working together. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve resolution, 7747, approving an innovation charter agreement for Heron High School as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Discussion.
Yes, Commissioner Moore.
I have a couple questions. Is anyone from Heron here today?
Janet McNeil.
Yes.
Okay, my question is centered around some of the questions or the statements that the young lady just made earlier. And my first question is around your priority logic. How would that be applied for our students as they enroll in the upcoming year? I recognize that Heron is a school that has been proven, so I'm not concerned so much around its ability to teach and our children to receive a quality education, but I am concerned around whether or not our students would benefit by us allowing Heron to become part of our program. So can you talk to me around your priority logic and how children would be admitted into your school?
You're talking about the neighborhood?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'm talking about, okay, so we have 150 slots. How will you make decisions around those 150 slots?
Well, the way I understand it, we will be a part of Enroll Indy.
Okay.
And we have designated our neighborhood areas because I think it's very important and we've heard discussion here tonight about students having a neighborhood school. And we want those students to have priority because they can take ownership in their schools. I also think that it's very important that when we look at our core values at Heron High School, and now Riverside High School, our community has really driven us as far as just becoming schools. The Northwest Quality of Life folks have really been so strong in helping us helping with the viability of what was going to be a building that was in disrepair and not being able to be used well by the city, now is going to be a place of learning and activity. And so we couldn't have done this without the Northwest Quality of Life folks really pitching in and helping us. We are eager, though, to offer enrollment to anyone who comes to us and within the parameters of Enroll Indy.
Okay, so the priorities such as siblings from your other school, Heron, could not then override. I'm just trying to understand, there's a tier.
I got it.
You say the first thing is this, second, because it becomes more about siblings, but we already recognize where the majority of those children, see what I'm saying, where they come from. So I want to understand the logic.
Separate sibling issues.
Okay.
Northwest, the Riverside School will have its own siblings as it grows, but they will not cross over in preference.
Okay, and so my second question, as you bring in the current school that you currently have, so how does that work in conjunction with IPS? Do you want me to answer it a different way?
Please.
Okay, so I understand Riverside. So as we begin to open up Heron current school, the current school that you have now near downtown, how does the enrollment process operate for those children?
The same.
Okay, so it's the siblings and then, right?
I want to make sure I'm answering correctly, yeah.
So the answer to the question is it'll be about the neighborhoods first. Is that what we're saying?
That's correct.
Okay. Then my next question is, I don't know, it's a combination between IPS and Heron. The young lady spoke about, how you make a decision on your enrollment at a certain time, and then at the other time, why are we doing it differently than IPS currently do it now?
Yeah, so I can speak to that. So
Thank you.
One of the non-negotiables from our perspective was to ensure that discrepancy doesn't exist, that we will all operate from the same enrollment process. So whether it's traditional, a magnet school, innovation school, all of our schools will operate from the same choice platform, and that platform for the 2017-18 school year for students to enroll for the 18-19 school year will be Enroll Indy. And so a part of the agreement states and stipulates that they participate in the same format. And so all of that will be consistent going into the 2017-18 school year for families to enroll for 18-19 school year. Does that help answer?
Ask a clarifying question.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Hoops.
I'm trying to wrap my brain around what he said, so I might have to come back. So go ahead.
Just give me an example as you list, as a parent who's determining in collaboration with my future high school student, I'm going to see the list of high schools, Heron, Riverside, and so on. And so how is that priority for me as a parent? How is that outlined in this new format? What does that look like?
So in the new format, you would have an opportunity to see all of the options for those participating schools in Enroll Indy. And then from those options for each grade level or grade span, you can see which options and what their instructional focus is and what other features are associated with their model. You also have opportunity to see where your neighborhood school is, and you also have opportunity to have maps displayed, also showing where schools are located across the district. And also there's information related to extracurriculars and also operations such as transportation that I know that was lifted up earlier. So families get to go to one place to gather that information to make an informed decision about where they want to enroll their student for the upcoming school year. Previously, there were multiple avenues that families would have to explore to see what all options were available. And so the goal has been to simplify that process for families where there's one place to get that information, and that is our unified enrollment system, which is Enroll-ND.
So essentially, for me as an IPS parent with a future high school student, having Heron and Riverside would offer a classical liberal program that currently IPS doesn't offer.
Correct.
And it would include transportation, so there wouldn't be...
So everyone that is participating in the unified enrollment system does not offer transportation or offer transportation in the same way. However, any district school or magnet or choice option that is within our boundary that we typically provide transportation for will continue to provide transportation. But within the system, families will have an opportunity to see where transportation is offered or how transportation is offered.
Mr. Bentley.
I have a couple questions. I thought on Tuesday night we were given, it references Exhibit A in the document as the attendance area, but there's no Exhibit A on here. And I thought on Tuesday, no it isn't, and I refreshed, Joe. And on Tuesday we had that list because my recollection is that the list of neighborhoods that get priority, and I don't have the list. Do you have the list?
You have to scroll down.
Yeah, if you look in your materials under the topic, you'll see the documents for the briefing and the agreements, and then you also see Exhibit A, which provides a view of the boundaries.
Oh, thanks. Sorry. I was paging on the wrong thing. But my recollection from the conversation on Tuesday is that under the lottery logic for Heron, and I'm using Heron on 16th specifically because Riverside, we don't know all the neighborhoods right for that yet, or do we?
It's on the map.
Oh, it's on the map.
We do, yeah.
Okay, got it. But that 50% of the seats will be, the first 50% of the seats will go to students living in those proximity boundaries, or up to 50% of the seats. Is that correct?
The seats are not a part of the logic. Priority is a part of the logic. So any student living within the priority boundaries will receive a preference in the lottery process, but there is no seat number.
Oh, there's no limit. So like if all of the seats available were taken by students in the priority, then there wouldn't be any seats.
Correct. They all have preference.
Okay, I see. Okay, for some reason I thought there was like a 50% something or other. But then students that, I mean, and I asked this question the other day, but students outside of that priority but are still within the IPS district, they won't receive any priority.
That's right. So we don't have that second tier of district-wide priority at this time.
But that's something we could talk about at a later date.
I think we can talk about it.
I mean, we can talk about it, right? Everything's talkable. Because I do think that, that's sort of a legitimate thing. And then I'm assuming everybody, there was, in the discussion to determine those priority boundaries, that somebody was looking at the demographics of those priority boundaries because, your school is only going to be as diverse as the pool of people applying.
Mm-hmm. That's correct, right. So there was a lot of attention paid, particularly with Riverside, and making sure we tried to map as closely to the Northwest Quality of Life Plan, given the engagement they'd had with Heron's community and the diversity in that area. And then the same thing with Heron and sort of aligning around the King Parks neighborhood. We know that downtown area is gentrifying. That's just the reality of the situation. So trying to make sure we are capturing, again, diversity of neighborhood.
Okay. And actually, I think I know the 50% number came from currently about 50% of the students on the 16th
That's what I said.
campus
Mm-hmm. Yes.
are IPS. And so really, this is creating an opportunity for more IPS students to be able to go to those schools. Obviously, the students within the priority boundary are going to have preference, but it still gives more opportunity for IPS students than there are now, right?
Sure, certainly for those in the preference area, and then I think because of everyone sort of engaging in unified enrollment and the access being equal in terms of that access of information and those timelines and those windows being aligned, then again, that opportunity I think improves for us district-wide.
And then my other, and this is an issue, I know that there's been sort of the conversation about, we're in the middle of closing high schools, which is a painful decision that we have to make. I just want to make sure that, and I think we are not paying for any of the facility costs of either of these campuses, correct?
No, we are not.
Those are still being paid for by Heron.
Correct.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that was clear, that we're not sort of absorbing additional facility costs as we're closing other high schools.
Commissioner Bentley, I'd like to get Commissioner Moore, I think, had additional questions, and we kind of started going around, and so I want to loop back to her and also see if there's some others, if that's okay.
I have some other questions.
Okay, we'll come back to you, but let's go ahead and see if there's some other, Commissioner Moore wanted to finish up, and I think Commissioner Gore also has some questions.
And I think my question has been answered. The 2017-2018 year is the same as IPS, so all the stuff is the same, is correct?
Yeah,
the 2017-2018 year, everything is the same condition as at IPS.
Unified enrollment will be the system that we use for the 2018-19 school year. That will begin during 2017-18. So right now, both IPS and Heron and Riverside have already engaged and are engaging in our enrollment currently. There are still seats available, correct me if I'm wrong, at Riverside. And then Heron also backfill. So if there become seats available, those preferences will still be applicable in the 17-18 school year. But everyone has already engaged in the enrollment process.
Because the enrollment for 17-18 has already been complete for all of our current schools and for the current Heron and Riverside campus. But going into 17-18, the systems will be the same in the unified enrollment process when the enroll ending for 18-19.
Got it. And you answered this question for me Tuesday, but I would like to have it answered again. And that is whether or not we agree to become partners in this process, and we have an opportunity to learn from your extremely good programming. You intend to open a school within IPS district, whether or not you are a partner or not. Is that correct?
I think I'm going to answer your question. We are really looking forward to the shared professional opportunities that can be created between the schools. I think, again, we are all about partnering. It's very much about who we are as an organization. I do want to say that we are very eager because of the charter laws. We were, we really could not control our enrollment, and many of our board members had asked to find a way to save some spots for some neighborhood students, and the charter law did not allow for that. Now, with this partnership, we'll be able to serve students in the way that we intended when we were founded.
Commissioner Moore, I'm not sure that she exactly understood what you were asking. I think that the answer to what you're asking is that they have charters that are not dependent on whether or not they are innovation schools with IPS. So they're existing charter schools, or will be a new charter school regardless of whether or not they are our partners. Is that what you were asking?
That was my question.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Okay, Commissioner Gore?
I think my question has been answered because I wanted to talk to the principal. Since you had expanded your boundaries, the students that you are looking for to be part of the innovative with IPS, they now can also come to the school even if we don't accept your Innovation School Connection year. So the children in Crosstown, 25th and Hillside, you will now open up your school for them to be able to attend, even though they are not going to be part of, or wouldn't be part of the innovation.
And I can help clarify. I think what you're asking is students without this partnership still have access to those schools and can enroll? Yes.
Absolutely.
I think what this agreement allows that's currently not in place is that we can identify boundaries where students get preference, and within those boundaries been very strategic and intentional to ensure that it provides the greatest opportunity to diversify those campuses in alignment with our mission and also the mission of Heron and Riverside.
And I'm hearing that from one of the parents that there's a majority, well, not a minority, our minorities are not the majority, so therefore, could you give me some numbers on your diversity at your school at this point?
I can tell you that early on when we were a school, or a new school, we had just exactly what we thought was the perfect formula. And we were about 50% students of color and 50% white students. As the school gained in its popularity and the way and how we needed to admit students based on the law as a charter school, those numbers began to skew. Now I think we range about 38 to 40% students of color, and we are eager to make sure that is far more equitable than it is right now.
And you can only do it through this.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, Commissioner Bentley?
What are your numbers looking like for Riverside? Do you know, do you have an idea now? I know you still have spaces, but what is your demographic number?
We can't ask those questions.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right.
I think, I could make a guess, but I don't think that's appropriate.
Okay, all right. I wasn't thinking, actually. I don't think I have it. Oh, I wanted to, this is a question for Dr. Farabee on the transportation piece, because I think that is a legitimate, I guess I didn't realize, we provide transportation to our innovation conversion schools, correct? But on these innovation agreements, we don't provide transportation. Is that something that we're going to think about? Because I do think that sort of affects access in many cases, that people have to provide their own transportation. And I think Heron also gives students bus passes to help, with the transportation piece. I know people that have taken the city buses to get to Heron. So I know that's available, but I didn't know long-term if that was something that the district would consider talking about when negotiating these contracts. Because, for the most part, these are IPS students from IPS families that are paying IPS taxes that support IPS transportation. And so I'm just trying to figure out, how we can, think about providing transportation for these, these programs. Because I think if I were a parent, it's a legitimate beef. They're paying taxes to support, transportation. So I was just curious if that would be something that moving forward that could be discussed.
Yeah, all of our agreements allow for the district, of course, at a cost to provide services from a wide range of menu, which includes transportation. We do food service. In some places, we do ground maintenance, and those are opportunities that we have discussed, and we'll continue to have those discussions. And it's something that, if of interest of the district and also the partners, can definitely pursue that.
I think that's one of the benefits of innovation schools, is that the schools are able to negotiate the services that they would like to get from the district or from outside partners. And I have to say that I'm sure many tax-paying charter school parents who are not innovation partners would be very happy if their tax dollars also paid for transportation for their children, because right now they don't get those funds.
Well,
so there's an inequity there
right.
For those families, and I just wanted to make that remark.
There are cities that, have partnerships with Catholic schools and provide transportation, because the idea is all of those families are paying property taxes to support transportation, and they're not having to pay additional fees because we're charging for that, and we've got families that are paying twice, basically. So it's just something I think we need to think about in the future.
Commissioner Arnold?
This may be redundant, but I want to make sure that I understand it. Under the current charter agreement, Heron does not have or cannot have a priority area, and Heron and Riverside would not if it were open just as a charter, but they can have the priority once they become an innovation school.
That's correct.
The difference.
That's correct. The charter law says anyone in the state of Indiana who can get to any particular school, charter school, can attend that school. So there are absolutely no boundaries we can enforce.
Just wanted
currently.
to make sure I understood it. Thank
Yes.
you.
Is that all the discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Nay. The motion carries.
Be sure that we are all refreshed and tracking that the next agenda item is 8.02 and is Thrival Academies pilot.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Fairway, I do need to do the Heron and Riverside resolutions with separate numbers. Okay. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That was for Heron High School, the first one. I'm sorry. That was, is everyone clear on that, or would that change anyone's vote? Okay. So now we will look at, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 7748, approving an innovation charter agreement for Riverside High School?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. The motion carries. I think we're back on track, sorry.
The next agenda item, again, if we're tracking, is 8.02, and it's IPS Thrival Pilot Agreement for Study Abroad Opportunity for the 2017-18 school year. I think that's a yes? Okay, good.
That's the right one.
The agreement is in your materials. Also, there's the pilot application. Again, this is an opportunity to provide IPS high school students, up to 20 students during their 11th grade year, the opportunity to study abroad as we continue to explore a campus permanently that would give students opportunity to study abroad. We ask that commissioners consider the agreement with IPS and Thrival Academies for the pilot year of 2017-18 as presented.
Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 7746, approving the MOU as, oh, I'm so sorry. Nothing is right on my notes, and so I apologize to everyone here. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the pilot program agreement as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Yes, Commissioner Bentley.
I just wanted, this is one of the most exciting, along with the Career Academies presentation earlier. This is another, I think, really exciting program for our kids. And, Commissioner Sullivan and I had an opportunity to visit the Thrival program in Thailand and talk to those students that were participating there from Oakland. And it was an amazing experience, an amazing program. And I'm really excited that we'll be able to, provide this opportunity to, at least 20 kids to start with. And hopefully it'll be successful enough that we can expand the program. But it was I was only there for a week, and it was a life-changing, or 5 days actually, if you cut out all the travel. And it was just almost a life-changing experience as an adult. And these students were there for 3 months and had spent months preparing to go there and then being there, and just their sort of integration into the Thai culture and all their outreach that they were doing, and it was just an amazing experience. And so I'm really excited that we're going to be able to offer this program to our kids.
I think we sometimes have questions about where is the innovation in Innovation Network schools, and I think this is a great example of a truly innovative program. And so kudos to all of those who are working to make it a reality. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
The motion carries. Oh,
You know why?
yes. Go ahead, please.
I just don't feel that I can justify at this time spending $100,000 on a pilot program for the district when we are having problems with trying to get money. So I just don't feel very good about their academic experience as well.
Yeah, to clarify, the district is not spending $100,000. While this experience has fees associated that is estimated at $100,000 and more, actually, for the travel and experience, the district is not paying $100,000. Actually, at this point, there's no...
Then where it's coming.
Ms. Johnson, if you could speak to the funding.
Sure. If you look at the agreement, what we have agreed to in terms of funding is the cost of a staff position. So that would be the only funding source from the district in support of that staffing. And then because it's a pilot program, we will still be responsible for services such as special education and ELL and those kinds of things that will be already a part of that campus where the program will be hosted. But there is not a straight $100,000 sort of funding being given to Thrive World Academies. We were able to work with them in getting that solved so that we didn't have to make that level of commitment.
Okay. I guess when I asked the question of the representatives that were here, I specifically asked if we were having to put in the $100,000 and they were putting in $250,000, and she answered yes. So
yeah, and since that time, and
on.
we've continued to talk with them, we've been able to get to a different place that doesn't have that same level of burden on the district, which we're very excited about.
You okay? So you'd like to keep your vote the same? Okay. Okay.
Next agenda item is 8.03. At the agenda review session on Tuesday, the administration presented the request for additional appropriations for the 2016-17 school year. Request that commissioners approve the additional appropriations as presented in your materials.
Do I have a motion to approve resolution 3007-17, approving the appropriations as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Next agenda item is 8.04. It is a renewal of our annual agreement with the New Teacher Project to provide services to recruit, select, train, and certify new teachers to teach in IPS. Request that commissioners approve the agreement as presented.
Do I have a motion to approve the agreement as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
Next agenda item for action 8.05, request that commissioners approve the MOU with IMPD as presented in resolution number 7746.
Do I have a motion to approve resolution 7746, approving the MOU as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
This concludes all the action items for the evening, commissioners.
Does any commissioner wish to offer closing comments at this time? Yes, Commissioner Bentley.
I just want to congratulate all the Vals and Sal's that were here tonight, and this is our last board meeting before the graduations, and those are in a couple weeks. And just want to congratulate all the seniors that are graduating and moving on to college and career, and we want to wish everybody luck. And
I think the graduations will be enjoyable, and so I hope everyone has fun.
I'd like to say that I'm looking forward to participating in a lot of the graduation ceremonies, and last night I had the privilege of presenting math awards to our students at, it was held over at Arsenal Technical High School, and it was awesome to see all of our little mathematicians starting in 3rd grade and ever so proud and enthusiastic and competitive about their accomplishments on their math teams and individually. So we have some wonderful math scholars, and I'm looking forward to seeing great things from them.
Can I
Yes,
add
Commissioner
something
Bentley.
really quick? Because that just reminded me. I just wanted to share that Steve Hyatt, who was a former board member on the IPS board and is an IPS grandparent, raved about that math event last night. He said, I've been to a lot of IPS events, and he has, because he was on the board as well as being a parent and now a grandparent, and he said it was one of the best events he's ever been to. So it was really nice to hear that. So kudos to those who organized the event last night.
Thank you for that feedback.
Dr. Farabee.
Just again, echo the comments around celebrating our top scholars from each of our high school. And the introduction tonight is just a start, just a reminder that you will see the students from all of our high schools that were recognized tonight prominently throughout our city. And again, we're excited to celebrate them. We're excited to host them for our annual dinner. And again, we're very proud of them and also the entire class of 2017 that we will celebrate in a few weeks. And then also just a reminder to community, parents, and families that tomorrow there is no school. And also there's no school on Monday as well. So students will return to us on Tuesday. Thank you.
Okay, our next regular meeting will be our agenda review session on Tuesday, June 27th at 6 p.m. in this room. Having completed all items on the agenda, the meeting stands adjourned.